So a while ago I got an idea to make a mob farm in Minecraft Bedrock Edition, but mobs work completely different than Java Edition. In Java, mobs spawn in a radius of 128 blocks around the player, but that doesn't really fully apply here in Bedrock. There is a radius based on the simulation distance that you set your world, but it also includes another variable that I've completely overlooked when creating that mob farm. So depending on your simulation distance is how far out mobs, entities, and redstone operates. So you can clearly see the difference between the scale between, I think that's 10 chunk, 8 chunk, 4 chunk, and 6 chunk. There's obviously a 12 chunk as well, but throughout my testing, I noticed that there's always a 24 block radius around the player that mobs cannot spawn in, and that applies to every single chunk or simulation distance. It doesn't matter what. And there's a weird special case with the 4 chunk. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but a lot of people have a lot of more information than what I do. This is just a proof of concept. I'm just trying to find the basis of what mob spawning is and how it works. So over here I was experimenting with different heights because not a lot of people had a diagram or an example of what would happen at different heights. But throughout my testing I realized that there's always a sphere or radius around the player depending on the simulation distance, and that will spawn mobs, but it will only spawn mobs if you're in the simulation distance. So here I was just messing around with the colors and seeing what mobs, or not what mobs, but where mobs would spawn depending on the simulation distance. So here's an 8 simulation distance. I was standing here in the middle, and mobs would spawn in all the little corners if I was too low. But once I got higher, you can clearly see the radius of this light blue circle, and no matter where you are, that radius always follows you if that radius is inside the simulation distance. Now these chunks go from the bottom of the world to the top, so this applies if you're in there, which is something I totally didn't think about, but that does explain the optimization that Bedrock has, because you can't get this view distance in Java. The way I tested this radius is just 2 small commands, one that kills the mobs as they spawn, and one that puts blocks underneath them as they spawn, so I can visually see what's happening. So if you want the exact numbers between the different simulation distances and the mob spawning, I will link Silent Whisperer's video. He goes into more depth and he has the exact numbers, which I don't have the patience for, but props to him. That's all I wanted to show. I'm with Steve, apparently, but I don't know how to import skins, so too lazy to figure that out.